You already know what's up. Another month, another book vlog. We're gonna go to Barnes & Noble's, of course, buy the books of December, and then sometime this week I'll probably review the books that I already finished. Quick outfit check. I am wearing a beanie because we are getting in that time of weather where you can't really go out without being all snuggled up. I'm wearing this cute tricolor shirt, keeping it nice with the brown theme. Love winter season. I wanted to dress a little bit more cute and do my makeup, but I'm actually a little tired. So glasses on, beanie on. Oh, and I'm gonna, for sure this time, buy myself something from the bakery because I have not had any lunch yet. So let's go.
Tell you what Christmas is all about. Lights, please.
Okay, hello friends. It is the next day because when I got home, it was too dark inside to record even though there was still some light. Quick book haul. I already started reading some of the books, but I got Magnolia Parks. This book has just been on my TBR for a while. I keep getting recommended this book a lot, but I'm just like, you know what? I need a break from fantasy, and I'll get to why I need a break from fantasy, but I need a break from fantasy, and this is gonna be a good, I wanna say drama book, at least from the synopsis. It sounds like socialites and stuff like that. The way I'm thinking about this, it's like a Gossip Girl almost. The next book I got is Pestilence. I finally got it. Oh, I was so happy to see it was not sold out. This sounds like a post-apocalyptical kind of book. So the next book I got is Heir of Fire. I started reading this already. I'm so excited. So very excited. I know this is such a big contrast compared to my previous book review where I reviewed Throne of Glass, so I'll let y'all know why I'm excited. But I started Heir of Fire. I also got Queen of Shadows, which, you know, these books just seem to get bigger and bigger as they go, and I think the last book is like 900 pages or something like that, so I'm kind of what's it called,
intimidated a little,
but very excited to read these two. And then lastly, I got Divine Rivals. But I remember when I first came across this on my feed, I was really just drawn to it. That was my book haul, so I got all these books, spent $100. super quick. I ordered a book for my book club. I had already gotten my books for December when they switched the books, so I just ordered it on Amazon so I can start reading it. And the book we will be reading is One Day in December by Josie Silver. So part of my book haul, I guess. Anyway, moving on from my book haul to my book review. So these are the books I got last time at Barnes & Noble's. So starting off with Horror Storm. I was very excited to read this book because of the cover. It was
Okay.
so basically this book, it's about a store, a knockoff IKEA called, what is it called? Orsk. This group of employees that stay after working hours to see what's going on in the store because they keep opening to vandalism, and they realize it's not the closing shift that's leaving it like that. It's actually like someone's breaking in and like vandalizing the store or something like that. It's supposed to be a psychological thriller. It was okay. It was really short, thankfully. It was a little bit confusing. Like, I hate to admit that I got this book because of the cover, because, you know,
Never judge a book by its cover, but come on.
I just really wanted it to be good because it would have been so contrasting to what the book cover was. I did not find it that entertaining. It was not what I wanted. I wanted to be scared. It didn't really do that. It was a little bit confusing. My rating is 2 out of 5 for Horror Store. After Horror Store, I decided finally I'm going to read from Blood and Ash. This girl who is a maiden basically has a gift from the gods that has not been seen in hundreds of years. So she's the first maiden in like I think 200 years, and so she lives a very, very strict life because she's supposed to be very, very pure. So on her 25th, I think it was, or 21st birthday, will be given up to the god for her purity, kind of like a sacrifice. It starts off with kind of like not sexy scene necessarily, but a little something provocative. So that's kind of just like the tone of the story of this girl trying to discover who she is before she gets given up to the gods. Also trying to learn more about her heritage and like where she comes from and stuff like that. It is a fantasy book. It does have like a fantasy aspect to it all. It was okay. It's really hard to remember exactly what happened, so I don't want to say it was memorable enough for me to want to continue reading it. I think I will read the series, but it's just not something that I need to finish right now. I feel like not much happened in the first book and the plot twist was predictable. It's just nothing really did happen in the first book, and I think that's the problem, that I just can't remember what happened. And if I put it down on my review right after I read it that nothing really did happen, it's just not the best first impression for this book. So I'm going to rate it a 3 out of 5. Maybe the second book would be better. And so moving on to the next book, because I did feel like I needed a break from that kind of fantasy series, I read Practice Makes Perfect. That's my cute little fluffy buffer book, and this was exactly again what I wanted it to be. It was cute, it was fluffy, it was a good in-between book in between reading a series. This is the second installation from the When in Rome series. So this is about Annie, Noah's sister, youngest sister, and Amelia's bodyguard. And it's a really cute story. Just like with When in Rome, it's not a spicy book, but there is a little bit more sexual tension in this one, so that's kind of cute, I guess. This is a lot more up my alley than When in Rome, because this one, the whole good girl, bad boy kind of situation was something I was obsessed with, and I think I still kind of am. It was a good book. It was a really good book. So for this one, I will give it a 4 out of 5. I like that I have this in my collection. Next book I read was Crown of Midnight. I read these last because Throne of Glass did not leave the best impression on me. But Crown of Midnight, oh boy. I don't know how Mass wrote these books. I don't know what the process was, but I feel like she took a lot of the critiques from the first book and improved a lot on the second book. So Crown of Midnight picks up where Throne of Glass ended, which is with our main character Selena. That's how I've been pronouncing it, Selena. Won the king's contest to become the king's champion. And so in this story, the king gives Selena tasks to basically kill people, and this is the first time the prince and the captain of the guard see this other side of her. So it's a very interesting, because I feel like if you haven't read Assassin's Blade, which is what I'm going to be reviewing next, it's the first side you see of Selena as well as the reader that you did not see in the first book, in my opinion. You could tell like in this book that she's an assassin. I don't want to give too much of the book away. There's also other plots happening, like the main plot happening. I don't want to reveal too much because if you haven't read the first book, it's gonna spoil a lot. I feel like the romance in this book, for starters, made a lot more sense than the first book, because the first book felt more forced while this one felt a little bit more natural, and it wasn't the main focus either. Like I said, I feel like Mads took the critiques and improved a lot on the second book. I really like Selena now on this book. She's just such a badass character. This is just the second book, which is why I'm so excited with the other books that I'm reading right now, because this is just the second book and it already completely changed my mind about the series. So far, at least for me, this has been a really good book. The twist is definitely expected, but the way it's written out was very well presented. I really enjoyed learning about it, even though I kind of predicted it. So, Crown of Midnight, my final review is 4 out of 5. Mads really improved on her writing with this one. I really liked it, and I'm really happy that I kept reading the series, and I'm just really hoping that the next books are either as good or better, because I was not able to put this down. I read this through basically almost in one sitting. Really good book. And then my last physical book, I have 2 other books that I read, but this is my last physical book, is The Assassin's Blade. So this is the prequel to Throne of Glass. Actually, you're technically supposed to read this one first because that was the order of publication. The way this story is it's multiple stories in one book. So in the back it says it's the assassin and the pirate lord, the assassin and the healer, the assassin and the desert, the assassin and the underworld, the assassin and the empire. It tells you, since it's a prequel, it tells you everything that happened up until the point where Selena gets imprisoned, which is where the first book starts off. It gives you a lot of background for Selena's story, and I really feel like it was a good idea to read it after Crown of Midnight. I heard that you can also read it after Heir of Fire, but I read it after Crown of Midnight. I'm glad I did not read it first because I also like Selena. I don't know if I already had a better impression of Selena from Crown of Midnight, that I enjoyed The Assassin's Blade a lot more because you see how she became who she is. She is such a badass character in this that I feel like if I had read this and then Throne of Glass, I would have been so sad to see our heroine just kind of be not the best. I feel like I understand a lot more about what happened in Throne of Glass for sure, and what happened in Crown of Midnight after reading this, but I like that I didn't know it before reading those 2 books, because I feel like it was a lot more impactful. Like some things that you learn about here that affect how things play out in the other books is more impactful. I also feel like the way Crown of Midnight ended was a perfect segue to learning more about Selena and her history. I'm really excited to see if they're going to bring more characters in from the prequel into the next few books in the series. But this book honestly was a really good book too. I definitely would recommend reading this one after Crown of Midnight. My mind might change after Heir of Fire, but we won't know until my next book review. But again, it's all up to you. I ended up giving this a 3 out of 5, not 4 out of 5 like Crown of Midnight. I really liked Crown of Midnight. The Assassin's Blade, I feel like I liked the way it was structured and the way everything flowed, but it was still not my favorite so far. But we'll see after reading the rest of the books. Let me scoot this way. So then the next book I read after this one, I read on my Kindle Unlimited, and I decided to just read it because it was again out of stock and I didn't know when they were going to bring it back in stock. I ended up reading A Court This Cruel and Lovely by Stasia Stark. This is where I realized I really am just burned out when it comes to fantasy, which is why my book haul I try to avoid just fantasy.
Which I might have not done the best job.
A Court This Cruel and Lovely is another fantasy book. A quick synopsis about it. You live in a world where when you are born, you're born with a certain amount of power. In the kingdom that they're in order to protect themselves from the Fae, everyone gives up their power as a newborn to the gods, and the gods then in return protect the humans from the Fae. Eventually, when you turn 25, you go through this process of they didn't take the powers away, and like you have some of the powers. You are seen as unworthy when you're 25 if it shows up that you have the powers and are killed. and not only are you killed, but your family's killed as well. And so like our main character knows that she has her powers, and she knows that she's going to die on her 25th birthday unless she does something about it, or she'll die sooner if someone finds out. Eventually someone finds out. It turns into the story of her learning how to use her powers, learning how to survive. A lot happens in this book, which is the opposite from Blood and Ash book. Again, this is the kind of story where the first half was interesting, but then the second half was just a whole different story. And I think what this book would have benefited from was if the first half was one book and the second half was another book, because it's just two different plots there at that point. Again, I think I might just be burned out from this genre specifically. I don't know if I want to continue the series. I was not really that impressed. I gave it a 3 out of 5, but I know when I was trying to rate it, I was trying to give it a 2.5, so I'm gonna stick to 2.5 out of 5. I do want to give it another shot in the future, so I will possibly reread it again, but maybe like a few months down the line. And then my last book, like I mentioned, I felt kind of burned out and I needed something different. I needed something new, something small, because I also knew that I was going to go get my books from December and I wanted to start reading Heir of Fire. So this book is called The Brightest Light of Sunshine by Lucina Connie. I think that's how you say her name. This book, I think, was such a wholesome book. I really liked this book. I was not expecting to like it that much. Trigger warnings for this one. This is a book about a sexual assault victim. You know what? I'm gonna rephrase it, because that was literally the whole point of this book. A sexual assault survivor. That's something that you're not comfortable in reading. I would recommend looking at the trigger warnings for sure. Like I mentioned, it's about a sexual assault survivor and her trying to basically grow from her experience and learn from her experience. She does not want to be stuck in this mentality of being a victim, because she is not a victim, and goes to this tattoo shop to get a tattoo, but then chickens out last minute on getting the tattoo. The story follows her and the tattoo artist that she goes for that tattoo parlor. Actually, he's the owner of the tattoo parlor. It goes through their whole romance story. There is an age gap. The girl is 22 and the man is 30. It is a very wholesome story. I really enjoyed it. I put down that this was the perfect amount of wholesome and spicy, because there are some spicy scenes. So the perfect amount of wholesome and spicy. The communication in this book was just, I loved it, because in every romance stories, communication is trash, because if they had good communication to begin with, there would be no romance story. But in this case, there was a story where they had good communication and there was still a romance story, because their problems were not based on miscommunication. Their problems were personal problems that they were trying to grow from, trying to learn from, and they were there to support each other. And that's, I think, why I really enjoyed the story, because at least I put down that it reflects a more realistic, healthy relationship, romantic relationship. I really like how supportive they were of each other and how mature these characters were. There were so many layers to this character. It was just a really good story. I really liked the plot. A really cute, wholesome story. I gave it a 5 out of 5. And that's basically it for this book review. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm very excited to keep reading Heir of Fire, and I will let you all know how it is and what I think about it in my next book review. So thank y'all so much for watching. Have a beautiful day, and I will see y'all next time. Bye!